Hey everyone, Jeffrey Lerman here from SlitherGames.com, and today, instead of doing a demo like I've been doing lately, I decided I'd talk about one of the articles I wrote recently, and it has to do with Dark and Darker, so that's why there's some Dark and Darker gameplay. Feel free to see my probably bad gameplay, because, I just kind of started a match, went for it, figured I'd see what happened. So, for those who don't know, because I'm sure plenty of people have been, maybe seeing Dark and Darker gameplay on Twitch, because people have been still playing and streaming it, making videos, whatever, but the big new thing is that it recently came to Steam, which it used to be on Steam a while ago. For those who are familiar, you might know it was originally on Steam, but it was removed due to a lawsuit with Nexon, which had to do with, I would say, probably copyright issues. Those kind of part of the issue. I'm not going to get into that because it's not the focus of this video, as you may have seen in the title of the video already. The focus is to talk about why on Steam right now the reviews are down to mostly negative. I have an article, I'll probably show up at one point, but what did I say? When I checked, it was 61% of it was negative. And a lot of this, if you don't know, it revolves around the free-to-play model they're currently going for. So it's kind of silly to call it free-to-play, because the free-to-play portion is almost like I don't even want to say extended demo, but that's essentially what it is. And I think what's throwing off a lot of people is they don't realize that that's the case. They think it's just the full free game, whatever. And people who are used to free games, especially like, Fortnite, Apex, all these different free-to-play games that are really good. You can play them practically permanently. You don't even have to spend money, or, your money is spent on cosmetics and that's it. Or even a battle pass, which I don't think this has. I noticed something that seemed almost like it, but that seemed more based on seasons that aren't in the game right now, or from what I noticed. But regardless, the big issue seems to be, so if you go to the Steam store page, the first paragraph when you scroll down, it shows what explains the free-to-play version and what you get in it. Which, basically, because I don't have it up in front of me this second, I could probably pull it up. I was debating how I want to do this video. So I'm pulling it up on my second monitor, but I'll probably put it in the video. Regardless, it explains how you can only play one character. So I believe there are 9 classes in the game right now. So you can create that one character, play it, level it up, whatever. If you want to try another class, you'd have to delete it, which that kind of sucks, because you'd lose your progress, which I don't know if that takes away your stash or not, but it would remove your levels, which are you need to unlock passive perks. So that can be a little annoying. It takes, I'd probably say, maybe a few hours, depending on how you play, to get those perks. So it's not the worst, but if you don't have a ton of time, it's definitely sucky. And if you do lose your stash, that would be really bad, but I don't know how they treat that. Aside from the one class thing, so I think that's probably the biggest issue, is only having one slot. Maybe if they gave you 2 for free, that would be cool, but I don't think you necessarily need it, as long as you realize that's what you're getting playing the game. So yeah, aside from that, the other big thing is you can only play normal dungeons, which that's still solo play, duos, trios, it's all the same maps. You just can't play what they call a high roller dungeon. A high roller dungeon is a more elite version. So I haven't played it yet because I haven't actually purchased it this time around on Steam yet. I probably will. I don't know for sure. But anyway, high roller supposedly has tougher monsters. You can go in with any level of gear. I think they call it grades in this as opposed to rarity. So like common, uncommon, rare. I think there's unique, etc. The bigger issue with that, though, is for normal dungeons, which I think is cool because it functions as a way of like balancing, essentially. You can only go into them with common gear. And I don't remember if the gear you start with is considered common. I know because they established in the game the difference between if something was looted in a raid versus if it was supplied. Supplied is something you start with on like a brand new character, or if you die and lose everything, you get that stuff back. But regardless, it's not that important. So common gear it might be literally the lowest rarity. So that means, no one's really going in with a huge advantage, or someone who spent a bunch of money. It's going to come more down to your level. So having more access to more perks, which isn't, like I said, doesn't take too long. And really just if some gear you can buy that's a little better than the stuff you start with. It's not a lot, but there is some stuff. So that is one, potential advantage. But I like that balancing. The only thing that sucks, though, with this is if you don't spend the $30, which we'll get to later, on the legendary status premium, whatever you want to call it, version, even though it's called legendary status, is that you can't bring that gear that you loot in the dungeon, even though you can equip it while you're in the normal dungeon. Once you leave, you can't bring it back in with you or use it. You'd have to use it in the high roller dungeon. So That's kind of annoying. I could see people get upset with that because it kind of kills your progression in a way. You could still level up, but at this point, I don't know if leveling up even gives you stats. I could be wrong, they might. But it's a little disappointing when you get all this shiny cool gear, if you get like blue rare items, which are definitely more rare, or whatever beyond that, and then just like at most you can sell it and buy medical items like bandages or potions. So there isn't nothing to buy, but it does kind of kill that progress. At least there's still quests in the game that you can still do as far as progression goes, but at a certain point, if you know what you're doing, you're going to finish those and that's it. But the cool thing for most players, I think, is a lot of people will probably play the normal dungeons and never even switch to High Roller, just because, like I said, it's kind of a more balanced level of play. I don't know how matchmaking quite works in this game. It probably goes by levels to an extent, maybe even kills. Oh, and then the other big thing they got rid of is, not got rid of, but that you can't do, don't have access to with the free-to-play version is player trading. So there's a marketplace that you can pay a very small amount of gold. I think it was like 25 or something to get access to, but if you don't have the $30 Legendary Status Edition, you won't have access to that. So that's a little disappointing too. I remember it vaguely in the past. It was kind of like an auction house. There might be direct player-to-player trading. I'm not 100% sure in that. I think part of that is, as well as to prevent probably real money trading too much. I'm sure it'll probably still happen. It happens in everything, unfortunately. And you could even still technically do it kind of the same way people used to do in probably Tarkov, where people would drop items on the floor in a raid. The thing is just you would have to be able to get out. So I don't know enough, but I feel like that would probably be a way some people would do it. But even still, like, I don't know how high the gold amount is for some items. It can't be, like, I could be wrong. There might be something that goes really high, but I'm not positive. Overall, though, I think the main issue with the free-to-play version isn't so much that people just wanted a completely free game. It feels more like they felt lied to, and I understand that. Even though it does say on the Dark and Darker Steam page, like immediately, free-to-play version, it tells you what it is. It explains. A lot of people aren't going to read that because it's below probably what you're going to see. You're going to click free-to-play and you're going to start it. That's it. The thing people don't realize, which I wrote about in my article, is don't realize, but that should have been made more clear by the developer, Iron Mace, is the $30 purchase amount. So it gets a little bit confusing because, similar to other free-to-play games, they convert your money to another currency. I think they're called, red shards? They're redstone shards, sorry. So you have to get, I think, 15 redstone shards, which total you can fortunately buy all at once. You don't have to do something crazy where you buy like 10, then you buy 3, then you buy 5, which some free-to-play games do, and it's really annoying. No, you can just buy the straight 15, which, like I said, is $30. But you don't realize that unless you read the store page, like further down the free-to-play stuff, or you play the game and then click a little button that says like Squire or a store page or something, and I think that's going to be a big issue for a lot of people. I've even seen that in some of the reviews where people complain about that, not realizing. A good thing they could do, which I'll probably pop on screen, is a good example is Counter-Strike on Steam. They have a free-to-play version, but they also have another version. I think it's called Prime Status. I didn't even know it was called that. I've also owned Counter-Strike for an eternity because I'm old. So the way they show it is, I'm pretty sure, just going off the top of my head, not looking at it on screen, it'll be like play here for free, and then below that it says Prime Status $14.99 upgrade. That's how it should look in Dark and Darker, or not in Dark and Darker, but on the Dark and Darker Steam page, because that would probably fix everyone's problem. They'd know what they're getting into. And there are a lot of games that are free where it's not necessarily the same as like that, where like it's an upgrade, but it's more like a founder's pack, a supporter pack, etc. I would still do it as try to push it to people realize it's an upgrade or the full pack. Because I feel like Dark and Darker may have had founder packs forever ago, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was included in, or this was included in that now. Yeah, no, they got to make it more clear because people feel like I said, I think the biggest issue is just people feel like they're being lied to or misled, and that I wouldn't put it on them completely. You know, it is a little goofy that people are complaining about this game that you could play so much of for free. And like I said, there are going to be people who play this normal dungeon area and probably never leave it because it's just perfectly okay. You'll still get a good amount of, gameplay. But the issue you run into is, like I said, it's the gear. I think, well, not just the gear. It's the gear and the character slots. The character slots is disappointing because there are a lot of characters. Some of them seem more cool. They all have different abilities you want to try. You might see someone who does something really cool, like, what is it? I think the druids, they can turn into stuff like bears. think I saw them jaguars, chickens, or maybe you just want to play a bard who plays a bunch of music and buffs people. Or, when you're playing with a friend, you might want to switch to healer to heal them, or, rogue when you're playing on your own. You don't have those options unless you buy the game, and I don't think that's a problem. I think people just need to, wrap their head around that, realize, like, if you want to, play the full game, you gotta actually put some money into it. This game could be much more aggressive with free-to-play microtransactions, and it isn't. At worst, which I didn't realize when I wrote my article, is the cosmetics aren't purely cosmetics. They all seem to have stats on them, and that's a little sucky. Some of the cosmetics I noticed, they seem to have like a good thing and a bad thing. A lot of them you can buy with in-game currency, not gold, but it's like a blue version of the redstone shards. So that seems a little I wasn't really big on noticing that though, even with the in-game stuff, because it seems like it's probably a big grind to get them. So I was a little iffy on that. As long as they make things more clear, I think they could turn this around. It's just going to hurt because this is their launch. They have all these negative reviews. The chances of bringing it back is going to be tough. Like, let's think, what is it? Helldivers? They just went through their thing where they had a ton of negative reviews due to the stuff with Sony and having to make a PlayStation account, and it was reverted. I look at that now, they're at 73% positive. And they had a lot more people, so it's going to be a different situation. But they also had a strong community, which led to such a strong reaction. Like, if I look at their graph, on May 2nd, it shows, just for May 2nd? Yeah. They had 221,000 negative reviews. That's nothing minor. Like, the game has 643,000 reviews total. That's a third of it right there. So, it's not impossible to come back from. I think they'll just, like I said, they need to be more honest with their community. It's not going to be the people who have been following this forever or whatever. At most, it might be some people who they watched their favorite streamer play it, or saw a cool video, or heard about it forever ago. Like me, I played it forever ago on Steam. I enjoyed it. I'm back. I wanted to try it. Played a few hours last night. Thought it was really fun. And yeah, once I went to make a new character and try something, I was like, oh shoot, I'm stuck. I can't make a new character. That was pretty much the end of that. I just looked into it more and realized what it was, instead of, unfortunately, which feels a little bit whiny, a lot of the Steam reviews that are complaining about it. Because, again, if you want a game you're enjoying to survive, it has to have some sort of income. And if you're not paying for anything, like I said, they don't have these shitty microtransactions. That's okay, but they have to have some sort of way for you to buy into it. Like, I think, what was it? Not that we need more team-based shooters or class-based shooters, but Concord, I saw people talking about from... Who was it from? I don't even know who's making it offhand. That was announced recently. And it's one where people are kind of surprised. They're like, oh, you're going to actually have to buy to play it. It's not going to be another free-to-play game, which that can be good sometimes. It might be tough with live service games, because that's a whole thing in itself, which, unfortunately, Dark and Darker is a live service game if they want to keep updating it and working on it, which they have been for a while, so clearly there are enough people, supporting it, but I don't know what their long-term income's going to be like, unless you just keep bringing people in. If you look at a game like, say, Deep Rock Galactic, that's a game where, as far as I know they have supporter packs, but it's not like you're paying for every new expansion or update. They keep bringing people in, and that's probably enough for them to stay, do well. Because I'm not sure offhand if they're under Microsoft at this point. I know it's Ghost Ship Games, I think, published, but I'm not sure what the deal is, because I know they're on Game Pass, but I can't remember if they were acquired or not. Not important. It's just, I think that's a good example, though, of a game. And it obviously has, massive appeal. It's very popular, so it's not the best comparison, even though Dark and Darker is far from a tiny indie game as well. In the same vein, I was going to say you could bring up Terraria, which, again, once was a tiny indie game, but it's the same way as saying Minecraft, bringing that up. These are games that aren't necessarily, not live service, but filled with microtransactions and expansions you have to pay for. Terraria still to this day gets expansion or updates that, they said it would be done forever ago, and it's still going, but the updates bring in new people that buy the game. What do you call it? Word of mouth does it. But yeah, I think that's really all I want to say. I think the devs can turn this around, because Dark and Darker is a fun game. They just have to figure it out, be better at maybe communicating, and this was an easy mistake to make, I think. Even when you start the game, they should just put a message that says, hey, this is the free-to-play version. You can spend $30 to buy 15 red shards, or at least maybe just say 15 red shards to keep it basic, because I know it's going to vary depending on your region. Explain how to buy them, and just kind of give you a quick heads up of what the negatives are. Because in the game, there are plenty of spots where, not negatives, but the restrictions. There are plenty of spots where you click in and it just gives you a quick overview. They could probably show you that screen and just have you click a checkbox to say, yeah, I realize this. Because a lot of people don't. A lot of people just downloaded it, hopped on, and nothing. They didn't read anything else. And that could be people who are just hopping on to play with their friends. It could be anything. Hopefully that was informative. I know it ended up running a little bit longer than I expected, even though I spoke very quickly. Hopefully the video, like I said, is helpful, informative, lets you know what's going on, and hopefully they turn it around. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, feel free to like it, subscribe, so you can see more of this stuff. Lately, I've been mostly uploading demo playthroughs, but I might do the occasional thing like this where I talk about an article I've written on my site. So, see you later.